Hey everybody, it's ShadowStar here, and welcome back to another one of my Pokemon anime reviews. Last time we did the Kanto League. This time we're moving on to the Orange Islands, things most people forget about the anime. But we'll cover the good and bad of the Orange Islands now. For some of the aspects of this review, it's better if you've seen my Kanto review, since when I cover characters, I might not mention certain things, since my opinions haven't changed too much on people like Ash and Misty and so on. But anyway, moving on, let's once again start with Ash. On the plus side, he's a lot more confident, but also a lot less hot-headed. I've noticed that he was a lot more humbled. Perhaps losing the Pokemon League in Kanto gave him the experience to learn that things are going to be tougher. But he's also a bit more confident because he likes to take in the fact that he got so far in the league. But this brings us to a good point. I like to feel that for Ash as a character, Orange Islands is a really good bridge between the idiot he is in Kanto and the confident, smart person he'll become in Johto and later seasons. He still makes mistakes here and there. He's Ash, he's not perfect. But I feel like in the Orange Islands, when he has an important battle, he actually does the right thing, picks the right Pokemon, tries to have a decent strategy, and at least has decent gym battles. Well, if you can call them gym battles, but that's not his fault. He also gains new Pokemon. We've got Snorlax, who never gets to participate in a battle in the Orange Islands. He will later, but not in the Orange Islands. And doesn't have any personality beyond being a sleeping Snorlax, although we do get a good episode out of it. We do have his Lapras, which feels like a major character because it's carrying him everywhere. And it does have a good episode in Viva Los El Lapras when they say goodbye to it. He keeps it for the whole of the Orange Islands, but then it's gone again. He doesn't need it now that he's not traveling everywhere, I guess. And he already had Charizard, but I will call attention to Charizard more than any of the others, because throughout the Kanto League and most of the Orange Islands, Charizard was disobedient. We all know that. Charizard really did what it was supposed to do. Whereas we finally, after 2 seasons, get the episode Charizard Chills, where he finally becomes obedient and becomes the powerhouse of Ash's team. But we'll get more onto that when we get to Johto, but it's just good to finally have it. Speaking of Misty, while most of her personality traits have stayed the same, I feel like they've amped up a few things. I feel like Misty and Ash are more argumentative in this season than they were in Kanto. Perhaps the absence of Brock made them argue more, but I also noticed more jokes about shipping. There was often times where they would argue and people would make jokes like, oh, well, if you're arguing, you might be a couple. Or people would just assume they're a couple. They liked to joke around and tease the idea of Ash and Misty together. I've never been that much of a fan of, shipping Ash with anyone, but I just found it odd that I seem to notice that happening way more in the Orange Islands than in Kanto or even later seasons. And Misty doesn't really gain much. Her Psyduck is still stupid, which is a shame because there's an episode where you're supposed to think Psyduck evolved. And honestly, I wish it did evolve in that episode. It had a fun joke, but it ran its course. Why didn't they let it evolve in the Psyduck episode? Instead, it was a different Golduck and Misty still has a stupid Psyduck that achieves nothing. She does gain a Poliwag in one of my favourite episodes. It doesn't do much since it's gained right near the end of the journey, but it'll have more of a heyday in Johto. Honestly, that Poliwag was more to set up what's coming in Johto. But I mentioned Brock, and most people will know that the Orange Islands has no Brock. After 2 episodes, he's sent away. But I will say the episode where he leaves is actually a really good episode. It really gives a good episode to show Brock's character, what his good qualities are, outside of being a recurring joke. It's nice to finally have an episode that showcases Brock, or any of the companions, as a good character. It's a great episode, but there's something I have to bring up. Now, I've nothing against Brock really, but I find that the lack of Brock actually kind of improves it in some ways. I feel like because Brock was usually the adult of the group, Ash, Misty, and anyone would tend to fall back on him. He did all the decisions, the food making, the directions, he knew where to go, It was nice to see Ash and Misty have to make their own way and see how much they can handle it in their own. It was nice to not always have him be the adult giving the wise advice to every single situation. It let it let them divide up the smart moments between all the characters. Now, without Brock, we all know there's Tracy. Before I recently watched this, I thought Tracy was just kind of a forgettable character that people make jokes about. Then I rewatched it, and honestly, I found him to be more annoying. For starters, his first several episodes, he just comes off as arrogant. He's only there because he wants to meet Professor Oak, and practically every time he's seen, he'll do this thing where I'm going to make a sketch, and he'll make a sketch of a girl, and I guess it's kind of like the Brock joke, but I don't know. And then he keeps bringing up that he's a Pokemon watcher, which, yes, I know there's lots of random hobbies and jobs in the Pokemon world, but you never see any Pokemon watchers except for one other episode, and it just comes off as random. You're not a Pokemon watcher, you just like to draw. Why do you need to make a big fuss about it? You like to draw things, that's fine. People like to draw, but you don't need to give yourself a label. I did like his Pokemon though. Cypher was a cool Pokemon. It had a cool episode, and it's one of the few good episodes for Tracy. And it was cool that Cypher, while it was good, you could tell that it was older because it would get exhausted very quickly after a battle. Then you've got Marrow. I wouldn't call too much attention to it, except Orange Islands likes to slowly bleed in the Johto stuff. Sure, we already had Togepi, but there's a teasing of an Elekid. We've got Marrow. They like to tease Johto as it's coming up, and Marrow was one of them. They don't even make a big fuss about it. The Team Rocket trio has not changed much from Kanto. Good and bad, they haven't changed much. The plus side is they didn't interrupt as many gyms. They only interrupted the second gym, I believe, which is a plus side, and they interrupted the league for like 3 seconds, but at least it didn't take up too much time. We also did get episodes like the one where we have the Meowth Island, which, again, is a great way to show the Team Rocket's friendship, and it's just nice to see episodes where Team Rocket is on their own, not just seen in their relationship to Ash and team. But other than that, most of their personalities are still the same. We haven't got too much defining characteristics other than James getting bitten by Victreebel, Jesse's a little bit of a vanity, and Meowth is Meowth. Yeah. The qualities I know as memorable for Team Rocket haven't set in until Camp Johto, really. Then we've got the gyms. Now, on one hand, I give Orange Islands credit for trying unique things. There's no denying that. The gyms were at least a bit different, even if they seemed a bit random and people just making it up as they go along. So, the first gym, it was a cool idea. You've got Ash having to use his water types to do target practice and win a water race, which is a cool concept, but have you ever thought about what if you came to that gym and you didn't have a water type? Especially one big enough to ride on in the race. So, yeah, that's a stupid gym, although it was fun to watch. Then you've got the second gym, which, again, it's just random. He has to climb a mountain on his own. He can't use his Pokemon to help him. How's that helping? Then he has to do really random things like freeze water and make a bobsled out of ice. Which, again, you need very specific Pokemon to do that. If you had something like, I don't know, a Butterfree and a Voltorb, good luck doing that challenge. There's some things that just block out certain trainers. The second 2 gyms were at least better. The third gym didn't have much of a gimmick other than Ash picks 3 types and then the gym leader will use the same type of Pokemon that he's chosen. So like when he uses Squirtle, the gym leader uses Starmie, and that's about it. The gym leaders themselves don't have defining characteristics. The first gym leader was kind of a dick, second one was nice, but that's about it. The third one had a crush on Misty, which was weird, and then the fourth one, she seemed like a nice person, and the fourth one is interesting. There's not much of a gimmick other than it being a double battle, which at the time was a gimmick. Double battles is not something you do in Kanto, Orange Islands, or Johto. Whereas, when we get to Hoenn and Sinnoh, they're just normal and you don't make a big deal about it, but it was fun to see Ash in his first double battle, even if it wasn't a little perfect. There is misrepresentation about the league. Throughout the journey, once again, Ash bumps into one-off characters who are like, maybe we'll face each other in the league. Except when you get to the league, there's no big fancy competition. You just enter and verse the champion of the league, Drake. So it's weird. It was cool to finally see the battle, but it's weird how people made it out like it was a big competition with multiple trainers, but it's just Ash versus the champion. That being said, the battle is the best battle we've had up to this point. It beats out any battle in Kanto or Orange Islands. Obviously, later battles will be better or at least equal quality, but this is like I said, Orange Islands started to act as a bridge. And that battle against Drake was incredible. It was a 6-on-6 Pokemon battle, and Ash used his brains. It goes to show some of the good battles we'll get in Johto, with the Johto League and Hoenn League. So, yeah, it's a great battle, and it's set the stage for battles to come. Then you've got the pacing. Now, on one hand, it's filler. Because there's only 4 gyms in the league, there's a lot of filler. Thankfully, the season is kind of short, but it's still filler. And the filler episodes are not that memorable. The plus side, it's balanced pacing. By that I mean, the gap between each gym is the same. Like, you never have one gym that's close together and another that's far apart. It's the same, so you're not waiting too long before you see another gym battle. The problem is, except for a few episodes, every episode in between a gym is just so boring or forgettable, and there's rarely any good ones. There's a few good ones near the end, but that's about it. I did like the setting. Because we're in the Orange Islands, I like the setting that now, rather than just walking through a random forest every other episode like we do in Johto, we get to do things like going to different islands and seeing different diverse groups. So it was nice to change up the setting. I'll give them that. But the actual episodes, most of them weren't that good. They did have some cool ideas though. Like, we saw unique things like regional forms, foreshadowing for Alolan perhaps, where when they're on Valencia Island, sometimes certain Pokemon like Raticate or Butterfree look a little different than they do in Kanto. It's a nice detail which I really loved, and they never took back again until you get to Alola, but those are much more specific Pokemon compared to what we see in the Orange Islands, which are just slight variations. But it's a cool idea. We also have 2 back-to-back episodes. We have the Crystal Onyx, a really cool idea, and there's no real explanation for why it's crystal. And then you've got the Pink Rhyhorn episode, where we find out it's just pink berries which make Pokemon pink, which, hey, Pink Pikachu was cute and all, but it's nice to see some cool ideas. Now, most of the episodes are forgettable. I can't think of any bad ones, but I will bring out a few that I remember as being good. We'll start off with Pikachu Revolts. First off, it's the second time we've seen Butch and Cassidy, and it's a really good, memorable episode. It's one of Butch and Cassidy's best schemes. It's an episode where the Team Rocket trio teams up with Ash, and it's just fun to see all the Pokemon so angry. Like Pikachu and Togepi look so angry, but again, it's actually one of the memorable Orange Islands episodes. You've got the episode, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one where Meowth and Pikachu were tied together. It's again another one where they kind of have to work together, but kind of don't. And it's just fun to see them like working together to fight off a Rhydon and seeing all that stuff. It's not as good as others, but at least it's a nice, fun, little memorable one. I did mention Charizard Chills, the episode where finally Charizard obeys, so at least we're making progress, but that's about it. We do have the Water War episode where Squirtle meets the firefighting Wartortles, which will foreshadow his exit in Johto, but for now it's just a fun episode where we meet them. And it's actually a really good, memorable episode where we have like the fighting Wartortles and Blastoise who work as firefighters. And then you've got another episode that I always loved as a kid, is the Stunsport Detour. This one, A, it's the episode where we get Poliwag, but B, it's an episode where it's just Misty, James, and Meowth, which is nice to see Misty working completely on her own, and it's also nice to see how James and Meowth work without Jessie. It's one of the first episodes that really shows that, Meowth and James are softer than her, they've got more empathy. They're the ones who, once they get the weed that Misty lets them have, they don't go and fight Ash and Misty until next episode. So it's a nice one. But like I said, those are only like 5 out of 30 episodes, and any episodes that's not a gym battle or one of those 5 episodes are just forgettable. There's really dumb ones like a way off day off, which are so boring, literally nothing happens. So yeah, the plus side is it's short and it's nice to see them finally lead into Johto. It ends on a good note, like, hey, Ash gets a proper victory. He has a really good battle, so I'll conclude with that. So, downsides, yeah, it's got some downsides, like lots of filler, Tracy's annoying, all that stuff. Good sides, it was nice to mix it up with the gyms. Ash is finally starting to be confident and competent, something that will lead into Johto, so I'll give them that. Like I said, this was a good bridge between Kanto and Johto for Ash. But speaking of Johto, that is it for now. Eventually, I will be doing my Johto reviews. I'm already in the middle of watching the episodes, and yeah, we'll get to what the differences are between Johto and Kanto soon. But like I said, Orange Islands is a good bridge. But for now, stay tuned until I review Johto.